Hi everyone. You probably haven't noticed, but I have noticed how long it's been since I've really recorded a video. This is Greta with the Gabby Book Club, and I'm here to give my review of Witchcraft of Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. First of all, I want to remind everybody that House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson is now in the bracket against Ghost Camera, and that's going to be in August. So we have April coming up, and we have a couple of different books, and I'll go over those on Monday. But let's talk about Witchcraft of Wayward Girls. This book was a little long for me, and I'm not giving any spoiler alerts yet, so just FYI. But I literally finished it yesterday morning when I got up because, I mean, honestly, I had more time being at work or traveling with work, since that's where I was, because I was on, 2 flights and I had a 4-hour layover. So I really did get all of my reading done then. But let's talk about some of the reviews and some of the comments that we heard in the reviews without spoiling the book. So what it's about is it's a horror fiction suspense psychological thriller. It says there's power in a book. They call them wayward girls, loose girls, girls who grew up too fast, and they're sent to Wellwood Home in St. Augustine, Florida, where unwed mothers are hidden by their families to have their babies in secret, give them up for adoption, and most of all, try to forget that any of it ever happened. 15-year-old Fern arrives at the home in sweltering summer of 1970, and I am one person who never was pregnant in the actual summer, like full pregnant. So I can only imagine how bad it was back then. Anyway, pregnant, terrified, and alone. Under the watchful eye of the stern Miss Wellwood, she meets a dozen other girls in the same predicament. There's Rose, a hippie girl who insists that she's going to find a way to keep her baby and escape to a commune. And Zinnia, a budding musician who knows she's going to go home and marry her baby's father. And Holly, a wisp of a girl, barely 14, mute and pregnant by no one knows who. Everything that the girls eat every moment of their waking day, and everything they're allowed to talk about, is strictly controlled by adults who claim they know what's best for them. Then Fern meets a librarian who gives her an occult book about witchcraft, and the power is in the hands of the girls for the first time in their lives. But power can destroy as easily as it creates, and it's never given freely. There's always a price to be paid, and it's usually paid in blood. So Goodreads looks like they gave them a 4 out of 5, and Amazon has like a 4.2. I don't remember what I pulled from last time. I probably could look back, but this time I just pulled some reviews from Amazon. So here's some of the things that people had said. So this person said, I really enjoyed the book. It was quite emotional and vivid for me. I felt myself identifying with the characters. The writing is good. The author gives a nod to Blossom Elfman, The Girls of Huntington House, a book set back in the 70s at a maternity home. I picked up this old book, and in the second chapter, a young pregnant girl is being chased down the hall because she needs a water shot from eating too much salt. Then all the girls are put on salt restriction, just like in Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. Rose seems to be inspired by Sarah, the hippie girl. So, yeah, I will say that, but there's definitely wasn't any witches in that book. So, I can see like there's definitely probably some similarities based off of what this person says. The Girls of Huntington House, I never read, but now I'm interested to read that one. Anyway, going down here, this one gave it a 3.5. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls was my first Grady Hendrix book. Same. And while I appreciate the unique premise and the author's distinct voice, it ultimately left me with mixed feelings. The story follows a group of teenage girls facing both personal and supernatural challenges, come together to explore a world of witchcraft. The blend of horror, humor, and coming of age elements was intriguing at first, but as the narrative unfolded, I found myself struggling with its length. The book is almost 500 pages long, and roughly halfway through, the book begins to feel like it's dragging in certain sections. The pacing, while steady at, I cannot read and I cannot see. The pacing, while steady at times, often slowed down in ways that made it harder to stay fully invested. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like there was some parts dragging on, but I was still like ready to see what happened next, if that makes sense. This person gave it a 4 out of 5 for story and a 5 out of 5 for narration. I really enjoyed Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. The story was well written with a strong character development and captivating plot. However, I wish the supernatural elements had been more developed. I'm not going to say what I think about this one because I will speak then in my review. I don't want to give anything away there. Okay. This one says, a magnificent, heart-wrenching novel. The true horrors below belong to the horrific treatments and humiliation that those girls had to endure, and the book does a good job of making the reader feel for the girls. Think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but young girls who are pregnant and abandoned by their parents because they can't bear the shame of having a child who is pregnant and unwed. Okay. So, good, like I said, Goodreads gave it a 4 out of 5. Amazon gave it a 4.3. I made some notes. I don't want to ruin anything. So, this is the time that I am going to go into my review, and there will be a spoiler alert. So, if you're watching and you don't want to be spoiled because you haven't finished the book or you haven't started reading it, this is the time that you want to hit stop and come back later and check out my review if you like. And if you also like the content, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all later. So let's get into this review. All right. I started the book on 3/9. I just finished it Friday morning. This is Grady Hendrix's 9th release. Because he has 9 novels, so this is his 9th release of novels. He doesn't have 9. I think he has more than that now. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. So, character-wise, Neva, who is named Fern, because Miss Wellwood, who is the lady who runs Wellwood Home, which is the home for girls who are pregnant and their families want to keep it very hush-hush. They make up reasons for these girls to be away. Oh, they're visiting and helping with a sick aunt, things like that. She named all the girls by, like, flowers. So, you know, there's going to be another fern. There'll be another holly. There'll be another rose, which kind of, like, takes their identity away. It's sad. I had children in the 90s, and these girls were in the 70s, and I can only imagine. And he did do a good job of making you kind of feel nostalgic feelings about when you went through something, because I was a young 15-year-old mother just like Fern. But I didn't have, I had support at the very beginning until my mom had a brain aneurysm about a year later. But, you know, I don't know if it was the right support, everybody can read into that a little bit. But as far as, like, Fern, she was a very normal lifestyle. Sounded like she had a really loving family. She was a great student. you know, kind of the all-American family back then. And then, you know, Holly was a character that I felt so bad for. She was a scared, scared little girl. You know, getting pregnant in the worst way possible. And then you have Rose, who I loved her. But I don't know, like the background was a little weird because I was like, oh, you know, she's like really hippie. I'm very surprised she's there. It may be her, you know, I'm thinking her family is like these hippie family, but it sounds like they're not. They're like very, you know, well, maybe well-to-do. I don't know. You couldn't really figure that out. Zanea, she was a colored girl in the 70s. So not only did she have to deal with being pregnant and unwed, she also had to deal with racism, right? I mean, there's still a lot of racism in the 70s. So, and she was a smart girl, man. She had her head on her shoulders in a lot of ways, more than these other girls, I think. So as far as the characters go, I don't know if I had a real favorite. I think I felt bad for Holly. And I think I loved her because I think I identified with her a lot. Not because my children was in the same, that I brought my children in the same way. I was 15, had one child, got married at 16, had 2 more children with my husband at the time, and then got divorced later. So, but for like her background, from what I can tell, really resonated with me. But these other, like all of the characters, the only one you really got to know to some point was Neva or Fern. And I wanted to really, I wish there was more character building in this book. And then now let's talk about the other side of it, of what will gravitate you to this book. Obviously, teenage girls, unwed, they're pregnant, they're going through struggles. You want to see how they do in this home. The home is supposed to be strict. I did not like the doctor and the way that he treated the girls at all. I loved Haggard. I loved like Haggard and Miriam. I loved them so much. I really, really liked Haggard. But I don't know. I just, the witchcraft part, right? That's what you're there for, is to see more of that. I didn't think he did a good job with that. I feel like it was kind of to the side, you know, witchcraft for Wayward girls. I'm expecting to see witchcraft. Like these girls find a book and they do all this crazy witchcraft stuff, and it's quirky and fun, and I did like that he was like, the way he did the witchcraft was like, yeah, you do this, and you know, the how to be a groovy witch book that was given to them. I don't know. I like the fact that it was scary in the fact of, if you don't complete your spell, you have to give something back, or we get to take you, or we whatever, you know. And I think there's a lot of books and stuff out there that just has this big happy ending. I don't think this was really a complete happy ending, because, you know, of Holly and her going, but she wanted to go. But I just think there could have been more like coven stuff. There could have been more witchcraft stuff. Like, what was the point of, you know, Fern having the support of the coven, you know, Mags and I think it was Periwinkle. They all jumped in to save her. But why? I mean, there was nothing that kind of put a relationship between them, because they talked one time at the camp. That didn't really make any sense to me. So, though I did like the book, I I gave it a 3.5 because I wanted to see more witchcraft, more of the coven. I did not really understand how at the big ending, which I thought was cool, and oh my gosh, some of those gross parts with like cutting her tongue. Ugh. Anyway, I did think that they could have done a better job with this book. Also, the other thing I did want to say is I did like how Fern stayed in touch with excuse me, Rose and Zania. I loved that. I love that they stayed in touch. I loved that Rose and Blossom were back together later in life. Um, you know, and then they showed the opposite, right? Zinnia's son doesn't want to talk to her. I mean, those are real life things. So I did like that aspect of the book, like not making it easy. You know, if you don't finish what you start, then you pay a consequence. Like I liked all of that. Um, so yeah, so I kind of had a little bit of mixed feelings because I liked the book, but I also, there was things I didn't like about the book. But yeah, that's why I gave it a 3.5. I would love to hear if anybody has, you know, some comments about this book. I just thought it was very interesting. I know there's some people who haven't finished reading it, and like I say, that's okay. You know, just come back and they can pick this up at any time. That's the beauty of doing it on YouTube. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I would love to hear what everybody thinks about the book. And you can email it to me, or you can put the comments down in this one since this is the review. And I am going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to be back on Monday to talk about the 2 next books that we can do a poll on. And let's see, I think I have April's schedule right here. So we will poll on the 31st. The poll ends on the 4th, and we'll announce, actually, you know what? I'm going to move that back. I think that's what I had to do last time. Because it was a little, was it too long? Oh no, that's how we did it. I think I moved it back from Saturday. So the poll will end on the 4th. I'll announce which book that we're reading on the 5th. And then we can start reading it right after that. And I'll do a mid-month check-in around the 14th. And we'll do our review at the end of the month. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you jumping on with me. I still think the book was definitely worth reading. Continue to read. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right. Have a great day. Bye, guys.